Welcome back to the weird and the wonderful with Strange Bones. And we're going to start on to a new topic, and we're going to check around and have a look at some of the more interesting things. But as we do so, I am going to point out that this is a new one entirely. We haven't started it yet, and it relates back, of course, but as we get into this, I am not saying that any of these things are real or not. I am not promoting it nor deriding. I'm absolutely welcoming anybody's particular opinions on the matter. You are more than welcome to give your opinion. In fact, we encourage it greatly. But we do insist that you are polite. It is the one rule of our channel. And if you are not polite, we will give you the boot. This is due to a large number of trolls that we have suffered in the past. And of course, we therefore want to keep things nice. Yo, Josh, I hope you're in fine and fabulous form. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a really exciting one. And as we get going for everybody, I am going to remind you that the algorithm is a funny old thing. And we absolutely do need you to give the odd comment when you can. Drop a like, because after all, likes are free, and that's always a good thing. So like, share, subscribe, sends all kinds of gifts and all the rest of it, and all of that good stuff to keep TikTok knowing that we are indeed alive. And welcome to you all. I hope you're having a fantastic evening. And far more importantly, I hope you have a decent cup of coffee, because how can you do a live like this without coffee? I've certainly got mine. But we've got a good one, and I've been looking forward to this. I've been plotting it and planning it for a bit, so hopefully you will find it interesting. Now, if you've been following me for any particular time, you'll know we have covered all sorts of weird and wonderful things. We have covered cryptids, monsters, ghosts, witches, and more, and therefore, as you can probably imagine, we have also, therefore, covered to a certain degree the concept of magic and more, which quite a lot of people will say is not real. It certainly doesn't exist for a lot of people. You are absolutely permitted your own opinion thereon, of course, absolutely, absolutely, but is believed in by a fair number of people as well. But having done all of that, what about psychic abilities? Now, psychic abilities are an interesting thing, I think, because they're not exactly magic, but then again, they're not exactly science. So, what are they? And of course, the question then would be, can anybody have them, or only certain people? Or do they work like any ability in that regard, whereby, you know, some people are naturally good at running and do it easily, whereas some people just aren't. So some people are good at swimming, and, you know, we have different abilities depending on who we are. Is that the same about psychic abilities? Might some people be really good at aerokinesis or psychokinesis, or other people able to just do telepathy? And what do all of these things mean anyway? And I think that's what we are going to do tonight. We're going to do a bit of a dive into that, see what people say is out there, and see if we have any opinions on whether or not such things might exist, do exist, could exist. It occurred to me to wonder briefly that back in the day when people believed in magic and all the rest of that, if perhaps psychic abilities weren't what was really going on, who's to say? Or maybe magic is real, I don't know. I do know coffee is real, so welcome to you all. I hope you're ready for an interesting chat tonight. Ghost, hi. Haven't seen you for a while. So, first of all, the obvious question is, what are psychic abilities or psychics, and who maybe has them? So, a psychic ultimately is a person who claims to use powers that are part of the whole concept of parapsychology. In short, using senses other than the normal known 5 to gain information or to do things that other people perhaps cannot. They are apparently rooted in your mental ability, though how exactly is another question. We know that scientific consensus is that there is no proof of the existence of such powers, and that the practice is a pseudoscience, but then they say that about a huge number of things, and I will point out to you that a great many people say the world is flat, so who's to say? Now, we know that psychic abilities will involve a couple of things, ESP being one of them, extrasensory perception, whereby you're talking about knowing things through non-ordinary senses. We also could add in psychic manipulation, either of the physical, such as psychokinesis, or possibly of other people in some kind of way to influence them. Now, exactly what is a psychic? Well, some are theatrical performers where it's stage magic using varying techniques like prestidigitation, cold reading, hot reading, and more to produce the appearance of such abilities for entertainment purposes. But there is also quite a large group of people who claim, at the very least, to have these abilities and will use them to counsel people. There are quite a few famous ones, the names which you might have heard, people like Edgar Cayce, Uri Geller, and more. There are those who will use their powers as counselors to predict the future, to tell you what's going on in other places, who are psychic detectives, who use their powers to find things, and even, believe it or not, psychic surgery, people who claim to be able to use no more than their mind to heal people, healers and more. And of course, linked along with this, I suppose we would have to say that there are things like the idea of, say, Reiki, which uses the energies of the person to manipulate healing and such. So there's a whole collection of abilities that are all lumped in together into what I suppose we can call parapsychological phenomenon. Now, of course, the word itself gives us quite a bit. The para, meaning it's something more than the ordinary. Psychological, of course, to do with the mind. So parapsychological, I did that well, didn't I? Parapsychological, the ability to use your mind to achieve things. Fair enough. Now, we also know that there has been quite a few studies just as an example, is that in 1988, the US National Academy of Sciences published a report on the subject, though they concluded that there is no scientific justification from research conducted over a period of 130 years of the existence of such things. We say that the critics will definitely tell you that it's either intentional trickery or self-delusion. In 2012, a study attempted to repeat certain parapsychological experiments that appeared to support the existence of precognition, but they say that the efforts to replicate the results, which involved a performance on a memory test to ascertain if a post-test information would affect it, failed to produce significant effects, and thus did not support the existence of psychic ability of this kind. Well, we know, of course, that they are very popular in both science fiction and fantasy fiction. And of course, the Star Wars franchise featuring force-sensitive beings is a huge thing. And of course, Dungeons and Dragons is very popular and has a whole set of stuff like it. And of course, the works of people like Stephen King has certainly affected it. The word psychic comes from the Greek word psychikos, of the mind. And of course, we use psych in all kinds of things, psychology being one of them. It also means soul in the original Greek, and the maiden Psyche was the deification of the human soul. The derivation of the Latin psyche is from the Greek psyche, literally meaning breath, derivative of psychein, to breathe or to blow, and hence to live. The French astronomer and spiritualist Camille Flammarion is credited as having first used the word psychic, but it was introduced into the English language later in the 1870s by Edward William Cox. But that certainly doesn't mean it wasn't believed in and done prior to. So we know that there were some very elaborate early systems of divination and fortune-telling going back to ancient times. Perhaps the most widely known of early civilization fortune-telling was astrology, where practitioners believed the rulers of the celestial bodies could lend insight into your life. Some fortune-tellers were said to be able to make predictions even without the use of these elaborate systems, or in conjunction with them, or even get some kind of vision of the future. And these people were known as seers or prophets, or in later times, clairvoyance, which comes from the French word for seeing. Now, there are those in the past who said that these prophets got their abilities from either God or the devil, dependent on who they were and what they were up to, naturally. But we know that multiple people in the Bible got visions. Book of Samuel, 1 Samuel chapter 9, Samuel is asked to find the donkeys of the future king Saul. We know that in Egypt, the priests of the sun deity Ra at Memphis acted as seers in the same way. In ancient Assyria, seers referred to as Nabu, meaning to call or to announce, existed. We know there was the Delphic oracle, the Oracle of Delphi, or more accurately, the Pythia, the high priestess presiding over the oracle of Apollo at Delphi, was believed to be able to deliver divine prophecies inspired by Apollo during rituals right back in the 8th century BC. It said that the Pythia delivered oracles in a frenzied state produced by vapors rising from the ground, and that she spoke gibberish, believed to be the voice of Apollo, which priests reshaped into the enigmatic prophecies preserved in Greek literature. Other scholars believe record from the time that show that the Pythia spoke intelligibly and gave the prophecies in her own voice. I suppose it matters not. Prophecies were given. The Pythia were the position served by a succession of women, probably selected from amongst a guild of priestesses in the temple. The last recorded response was given in 393 AD when the Emperor Theodosius I ordered pagan temples to cease operation. They do say, from geological investigation, that there's a possibility that the reason for the Pythia's state of inspiration was geologically produced ethylene gas. So she was basically goofed. Is that true? Well, we know that the use of narcotics has been common throughout history by seers and such, so maybe not. We know that varying people have been attributed such abilities. The prophecies of Michel de Notre Dame, born 1503 and passed on in 1566, often referred to in the modern times as Nostradamus, published his writings during the French Renaissance. Nostradamus was a French apothecary and seer who wrote collections of prophecies that have since become famous worldwide and have rarely ever been out of print since his death. He is best known for his book Les Prophéties, the first edition of which appeared, if you will, in 1555. Spooky, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I hope you're doing well.
Good.
So tell me, what's weird and wonderful? I'm curious. Is it scary or just plain odd?
We've done a lot of different things as we've gone along, which included, of course, beings of magical ability and witches with magic. And I thought the next step, logically, had to be psychic abilities, something which is neither magic nor science, but somehow halfway between. And it's something which absolutely has existed for a very long time, centuries and centuries, and is still popular even today. So I thought we'd have a look at that and some of the famous ones who may or may not have such abilities, and we could have a look at it and decide whether or not there is anything to it.
Okay. Can I say something scary?
Yes.
Okay, so I saw in the 1800s there was this massive magnetic wave that occurred.
Okay.
And it destroyed all electrical equipment and stuff like that. Not that anybody even had electrical equipment. It was in the 1800s. Everybody was driving by horses, and so only like researchers and scientists had them. Later on, I also heard that seasons and stuff changed. There was this magnetic pulse that occurred. The sun had a burst. You could have seen purple aurora lights in Central America.
Okay, this is in the 18th century?
Yes.
Interesting. Now, the reason I say it's interesting is your comment about the purple aurora lights. The reason it's interesting is there is an account of a Greek battle in ancient Greece. And as they were approaching the battle, they were like, should we fight or should we not? So they did a sacrifice and a prayer thing. And all of a sudden, the sky lit up with purple fire from the gods, which they took to mean that, no, the gods did not want this battle to occur. And they turned around and went home, which seems to imply that such a thing has happened before. And
But
therefore,
do you know when it happened?
we're talking back like before Christ, so before our year dot, as it were. So
Okay,
BC.
but it's
But
still
it
very
was
scary.
it was recorded by one of the famous Greek historians. So we've got it in documentation. Now,
Yeah. So
if it happened then and it's happened again in the past, chances are it could happen again now, right?
yes, but it's very dangerous because currently, the way we live, it would be the end of civilization as we know it.
Yes.
Because, as I heard, copper cables was burned, and I mean, everything today is electronic. I mean,
And
satellites in
copper
orbit
and
would be,
copper and copper and copper. I mean,
yes,
yeah.
your cars won't work. All the servers, all the information that we've collected on computers and stuff would be lost. The satellites in orbit would be completely useless. Everything, I mean, nothing would work anymore. Cars won't work. Nothing is, I mean, that would be the end.
Well, essentially, for those of you who don't know, what Spooky's talking about, militarily speaking, they've developed what is known as an EMP strike, an electromagnetic pulse, which is designed to be a targeted weapon that I could blast at a target and it would wipe out any and all of their electronics. And I mean every electronic, from your torch that uses a battery right the way through, as he says, to your car, to your everything. Now, if it comes as a solar flare EMP, it's like a million times more powerful, which means every single bit of electronic anything in the entire world would be fried, even to the point where, as he says, copper wiring or cables would be burnt. It would be massive. And if I want you to imagine then you waking up and not a single electronic device or, interestingly, magnetic device, so even a compass would no longer work. It would just stop dead. It's gone, finished, nothing.
Yeah. And there would be no communication or anything. I mean,
Yeah,
we
well,
would be completely lost. We will have to rebuild from scratch. And yeah, that would take years. I mean, a lot of our equipment is electronic these days. Imagine
I would go
farm
as
equipment
far as
doesn't
to
work
say
anymore.
not a
Nothing.
lot of, virtually all.
Mm.
I mean, there is almost nothing that doesn't in some way involve an electric something.
Yeah. Imagine having to rebuild AI again because you now lost all the servers,
Yes.
all the information, and yeah, all electronics, every server, every processing chip is fucked. You'll have to build millions of them again.
Yeah, absolutely you would. That would be the result, which is,
It
yeah.
would be a reset of civilization as we know it.
Oh, totally. Totally. Or in this case,
Yeah.
as we don't know it, because you couldn't tell anybody.
Yes.
So there you go.
It
Well,
would be scary times, and it could happen anytime without warning.
yeah, well, maybe that's the next reset of the world, perhaps. I don't know. It's potentially a thing. Yeah, it would certainly have effect. Let's be fair. There's no doubt about that. And any and all robotics, any and all vehicles, your watch, your cell phone, all your TikTok gone. Oh my. I think the most important thing, hey Oreo, the most important thing would be the fact that almost all of our knowledge in the modern day is kept digitally. We don't keep things in physical form hardly at all anymore. I mean, here's a thought for you. Take your wallet out and count how much money you've got in your wallet right now. Because if an EMP struck, that's how much you would have.
Okay, I do not have anything. Everything is digital.
Yep. If a solar EMP struck, all gone.
Yeah, you don't have money, and you've got no. You can't tell somebody, no, I've got billions, because where's the proof of it?
Doesn't exist. It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, sounds like somebody's actually carrying. Elon Musk doesn't have 400 billion in cash somewhere.
Who does? I mean, I could probably scrape up $5 or $6.
I think I might have a 10 cents lying somewhere.
There you are. So that would be your lot. True point. So, well, maybe we would have to therefore resort to psychics who don't require all of that to communicate across distances. Indeed, not just space, but also time. Because Nostradamus, as we say, first edition of his book, Les Prophètes, appeared in 1555 and has never been out of print since. It's known to have in it at least 6,338 quatrains, or prophecies, and at least 11 annual calendars, dealing with disasters, plagues, earthquakes, wars, floods, invasions, murders, droughts, and battles, and here's the bugger of it, all of them undated. It's like shit. So Nostradamus is a very controversial figure. He was very popular, and those that support him credit him with predicting many major world events. Interest in his word is still considerable, especially in media and popular culture, but by contrast, most academic scholars maintain that the association made between world events and his quatrains are largely the result of misinterpretations or mistranslations, sometimes deliberate, or else are so tenuous as to render them as useless as evidence of any predictive power. So maybe not. We will go further with him in a bit. Another really cool one, though, is Mother Shipton. Not as well known, but nevertheless demonstrated her psychic abilities from her youth and foresaw historical events in the 16th century. In addition to the belief that some historical figures were endowed with a predisposition to psychic experiences, some were thought to be available to everyone, which is another question we need answering. For example, the belief in prophetic dreams was common in the past and persistent in many ancient cultures. So one of the questions we need to answer is, are only some people psychic, or can everybody be psychic? Is it a learnt skill? Can I basically, if I taught you correctly, teach you to be psychic? Or is it just like one of those things, you're either born with it or you're not? These are questions we need answering. Now, in the mid-19th century, of course, modern spiritualism was a thing, especially in the United States and the United Kingdom. And the movement's most distinguishing feature was the belief that the spirits of the dead could be contacted by mediums to lend insight to the living. Now, the movement was fueled in part by anecdotes of psychic powers, and one such person believed to have extraordinary abilities was Daniel Douglas Home, who gained fame in the Victorian period for his reported ability to levitate and speak to the dead. So we're going to also need to figure out what kind of things could you do if you were psychic. Now, as a spiritualist movement, other comparable groups arose, including the famous Theosophical Society, founded in 1875 by Helena Blavatsky, which of course was coupled with such elements as Eastern mysticism and the New Age movement. And we know for a fact that people that got involved were quite famous, including the famous magician Harry Houdini, and of course a number of famous so-called magicians like Gerald Gardner, and who's the other bugger that's supposed claimed to be the most evil man alive? I know him so well, and now just because I want to say his name, it's jumped right out of my head. His daughter's still the head of the UK. No, his granddaughter is the head of the UK pagan movement. Victoria, I think her name is. Anyway, he was a magician, and he went off and did his own thing thereafter. But it's affected a lot of people, let's just say that. And of course, the New Age culture was huge into psychic readings, mediums, psychic fairs, and all the rest of that. So very much a big thing for a long time. And of course, from that, people have gone into it, and scientists have absolutely tried to work out if it works, how it works, and all the rest. There was a survey done in 1990 by members of the National Academy of Scientists, and those that responded said that 2% thought that extrasensory perception had been scientifically demonstrated. 2% thought the phenomena happened sometimes. 22% thought that research in the field should be discouraged. 63% thought it should be allowed but not encouraged. And 10% said it should be encouraged. Those most hostile to the idea of parapsychology were the neuroscientists, funnily enough. You would think they would be the ones most keen on it, but no. Not so at all. Now, a survey of the beliefs of the general United States population about paranormal topics was conducted in 2005, and 41% of those polled believed in it, 26% believed in clairvoyance, and 31% believed in telepathy or psychic communication. A poll of 439 college students was conducted in 2006 by researcher Brian Farrer of the Oklahoma City University and Gary Stewart of the University of Central Oklahoma, suggesting that college seniors and graduate students were more likely to believe in psychic phenomena than college freshmen. That's interesting. 23% of college freshmen expressed the belief in paranormal ideas, however, and the percentage was greater among college seniors than graduates. The lower belief in psychic phenomena among science students and a higher one among social science and education students. Seems reasonable that that would be the case. Some people said that anyone can have psychic abilities, which can be activated or enhanced through study and practice of disciplines and techniques like meditation and divination, with a number of books and websites being dedicated to the instruction of these things. Another popular belief is that the ability is hereditary, with a psychic parent passing their abilities on to their children. Now, of course, it's turned up in a ton of things, as we know, in fiction, science fiction and so on. And so we have terms like psionic and so on. So you've got the Demolished Man, Slan, Anne McCaffrey's Talents universe, Babylon 5, Dune, Scanners, the StarCraft franchise, of course Star Wars, very much so, Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land. So then you've got things like X-Men, of course. Superhero comics are big on that. So you've got all kinds of different things. Now, is it real? Is it not real? Parapsychological research has attempted to use random number generators to test for psychokinesis, mild sensory deprivation in the Gannesfield experiment to test for ESP. There have been trials conducted by the US government to investigate remote viewing. Now, critics say that the evidence is not sufficient for acceptance because the intrinsic probability of psychic phenomenon is very small. But to be fair, that statement alone, basically, if you say it in ordinary English, is just because we don't believe in it, therefore it's unlikely to be true. On the other hand, they might be right. A number of critics suggest that parapsychology has methodological, see, I can do words, flaws that can explain the experimental results that do come out correct. So it's classified as a pseudoscience and absolute rubbish, with either cold reading, hot reading, or self-delusion. Now, is that true? Well, here's the thing. Professional magicians, and by which I mean the kind that do it for entertainment only, they are fake, they say they're fake, they know they're fake, but they're doing it for entertainment. That kind of magician, such as James Randi, Ian Rowland, Derren Brown, they have all demonstrated amazing psychic abilities, but they themselves say, no, it's a trick, we do it for entertainment. So, but then the fact that somebody can fake a thing doesn't necessarily mean that the thing isn't real. 2008, they did a whole lot of studies using neuroimaging to try to see whether or not there really was psychic happenings going on with the appropriate emotional stimuli, and participants who are biologically or emotionally related, like twins. Can you do something to one twin and the other one knows? Stuff like that. It was designed to produce positive results if telepathy, clairvoyance, or precognition occurred. but no distinguishable neuronal responses were found between psychic stimuli or non-psychic stimuli. But variations in the same stimuli produced the anticipated effects on patterns of brain activation. So they concluded that they are the strongest evidence yet obtained against the existence of any kind of psychokinesis. Well, I suppose it's that. Now, a famous one, Sylvia Browne, who made predictions about missing persons and murder cases and who helped the police, found that despite her repeated claims that she was more than 85% correct, they said that she was not even mostly correct in even a single case. I suppose that that's arguable both ways. We would have to go further into it, and we will try. So essentially, the bottom line is science says you can't prove it and there is no proof. But having said that, and despite all of these amazing tests, a huge number of people do in fact believe in it. So the Great Australian Psychic Prediction Project was invented to collect and vet the accuracy of every published psychic prediction in Australia since the year 2000. They analysed over 3,800 predictions made by 207 psychics between the year 2000 and the year 2020. While a few of the psychic predictions were about events outside of Australia, the predictions primarily focused on celebrity scandals, natural disasters, weather patterns, sports, and real estate trends. The results of the analysis found that psychics were correct 11% of the time, wrong 35% of the time, and most predictions, 19%, were too vague to characterize, or 15%, the predicted outcome was so bloody obvious, mate, that it was to be expected. So there you go. 2% of the predictions were unable to be categorized. So their results came up with a very straightforward answer. Psychics are appallingly bad at predicting future events. Most predictions are too vague, expected, or simply wrong, and most of what happens is not predicted, and most of what is predicted doesn't happen. So there you go, according to the Aussies. They might be right. Now, of course, that then leads to psychic fraud, where people have, and look, I absolutely do believe that psychic fraud does happen. People have been duped into flogging everything and giving the money to the psychic, becoming addicted to getting psychic assistance from people who bilk them out of all of their money, and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's been a whole collection of that where thousands and thousands of dollars have been given to people for that reason. Is it true? I don't know. I suppose that's a very good question. And for that, I suppose, we need to look at a list of psychic abilities. So, what do you think so far? Any comments there, Spookster?
Psychic abilities. All I know about is modern psychic.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So, here is a list of psychic abilities, what they are and what they mean. See if you think any of them might exist. So, this list is not definitive, and of course, all kinds of things get added to do it. But aerokinesis, the ability to control air and wind. Astral projection, whereby you can project your astral body or mental body to another place.
Gobble, gobble.
Sorry about that.
What was that? So
I'm gonna love that man.
the ability to go to another place or another time and witness things without physically going there. Atmokinesis, the ability to control the weather. I got to tell you, if you could do this for certain, farmers would pay you a crapload. Automatic writing. This is a very popular one, the ability to draw or write without conscious intent, often used for communicating with the other side. Bilocation. This is an interesting one because a number of saints in the Christian church have been said to have this ability, the ability to be in two places at the same time. Biokinesis, the ability to control any form of life, whether it's from a single nucleotide or to an entire ecosystem simultaneously. Chlorokinesis, the ability to mentally and or physically summon, control and manipulate plants and vegetation, which sounds pretty cool. The ability to curse is considered to be a form of psychic ability. The ability to cause misfortune to fall on another person. Electrokinesis, control electricity. Energy medicine, very, very popular. Reiki uses it, as do a number of other things. So the ability to heal with empathic, etheric, astral, mental, or spiritual energy. Ergokinesis, I don't even know what. The ability to influence the movement of any energy, not just electricity. Geokinesis, the ability to control forms of earthly materials. Hydrokinesis, control water. IDI. IDI is an interesting one because apparently this is a thing. This is psychic abilities gained through Buddhist meditation specifically. The ability to conjure illusions from one's mind that other people can see. Levitation, also sometimes called transvection, the ability to float or fly. Materialization, the creation of objects or the appearance of matter from unknown sources. I have actually seen videos of that, though, whether, videos. Mediumship or channeling, the ability to communicate with spirits. Mind control, where I control your mind. Petrification, the power to turn a living being to stone by eye contact. Of course, it goes back to Medusa in Greek myth. Photokinesis, the ability to control lights. Phytokinesis, also the ability to control plants. Prophecy, to foretell the future. Psychic surgery, where I can heal you just using my mind. And even do things like remove cancers and tumors. Pyrokinesis, the ability to start fire using your mind. Now, of course, we know that Stephen King has covered a couple of these in his horror stories. Psychic hold, the ability to throw an electric current like a rope. I would like that one, just saying. Shape-shifting, the ability to transform your body. Telekinesis, also known as psychokinesis, the ability to move things, basically. Teleportation, the ability to transfer matter or energy from one point to another, either yourself or an object. Thoughtography. Now this is an interesting one which apparently is a thing. The ability to impress an image, burning it into a surface somehow using only your mind. Time travel, the ability to escape the flow of time. That would be a good one. Umbrakinesis, the ability to control shadows and darkness. Witnessing, this is very much a religious thing. The gift of seeing important spiritual beings from religion, Mary, Jesus, Fudosama, so on and so forth. And xenoglossy, the ability to suddenly learn to write and speak a foreign language without any natural means of it. This is often bestowed, as we know from the Bible, by divine agency. So, to this you will add ESP. Now, ESP, of course, is the ability to sense things that is not sensible through the normal five senses. Clairvoyance, dermo-optical perception. So clairvoyance is see things far away or locate objects, places and people. Dermo-optical perception is the ability to perceive sensory stimulation through the skin. I've never heard of that one. Dowsing, which a lot of people believe in, where you use sticks and things to find water or gold or whatever. Dream telepathy, the ability to communicate with another person through dreams. Precognition, so for foretelling the future. Psychometry, the ability to obtain information about a person or object just by touch. Remote viewing, where you see distant or unseen target using ESP. Retrocognition, which is the ability to supernaturally perceive past events. And telepathy, the ability to transmit or receive thoughts supernaturally. So there's a good selection of possible things. Have you ever met anybody, Spooky, that claims at least they can do it?
Well, I've communicated with some people through my team. Okay, people that does.
I've met people who claim to be able to do it. Whether or not they can is another question. But I've known plenty of churches where what they call speaking in tongues is done. And I have seen that. So yeah, there's plenty of people around. Now, what kind of people have claimed, at least through history, to have these abilities? Well, one we shall start with is Mother Shipton. Ursula Southall, actually, born 1487 and passed on 1561, known as Mother Shipton. She was an English prophetess from English folklore. She apparently had a pet monkey, which some people said was her familiar. She came from North Yorkshire. She was around 72 to 75 when she passed away. But she was a professional fortune teller. That's what she did. Sometimes described as a witch, associated with the folklore of the Rollright Stones of Oxfordshire. A king and his men were said to have been transformed to stone after failing her test, according to William Camden, who reported this in 1610. How true is that? We don't know. But the rollright stones are there. You can go and look at them if you want. Karina! Hello! Goodness gracious me, she's turned up. I haven't seen you in a very long time. I hope you're in a fine and fabulous form. Are you well? Are you surviving Christmas and New Year? Or was it suitably fattening? Those of you who don't know, Karina is a good friend that I worked with for a number of years and who has since abandoned our beloved country for better life in elsewhere, and apparently is having a better life in elsewhere, so good for her. But we have remained friends, which is rather nice. And yes, she is still very much who she is, which is even better. Once a South African, always a South African. But yeah, so yes it is. So she was known for her prophecies, printed in 1641, 80 years after her reported death. The timing suggests that what was published was legendary or mythical rather than necessarily direct. It contained numerous predictions, mostly regional, and only 2 prophetic verses. Yay! Huge thanks to Karina. We have just reached our live goal. Thank you very, very much indeed. One of the most notable editions of these prophecies was published in 1684, and it gave her a birthplace as Knaresborough in Yorkshire, and a cave now known as Mother Shipton's Cave. The book reputed to be of the time, and it said that Shipton was hideously ugly, and that she married Toby Shipton, a local carpenter near York in 1512, and made predictions to make her living throughout her life. She was born to a very, very young mother who was 15 at the time. Yay! You are more than welcome to join us. I wasn't sure you would want to, but you are absolutely welcome to. She was born during a violent thunderstorm and born deformed, ugly with a hunchback and bulging eyes. She cackled instead of crying, having been born, and as she did so, the previously raging storms abruptly ceased. They report her poor mother was a 15-year-old orphan left with no means to support herself, having fallen under the influence of the devil. She was engaged in an affair that resulted in the birth of Ursula, and variations of this legend claim that Agatha herself was a witch. Nobody knows who the father was. She was forcibly brought before the local magistrate and still refused to disclose the identity of the father. The scandalous nature of Agatha's life and Ursula's birth meant the two were ostracized from society and forced to live alone in said cave where Ursula was born for the first 2 years of Ursula's life. She may have been a witch, and who knows, maybe Ursula was indeed the spawn of Satan. But nevertheless, they say that if you drink from the skull-shaped pool, you would be turned to stone. But there are stalactites in the cave that really do look like animals and people, and it is shown that the minerals dripping will in fact calcify things and coat them in a layer of stones. And people have left things there, and yes, they have turned stone. So, who's to say? Nevertheless, Agatha was shipped off to a convent, and Ursula to a foster family, and they never saw each other again. And this poor young girl with a crooked nose, a hunchback and crooked legs, had to grow up as a foundling in that way. And she made her prophecies, and was a herbalist as well. I don't know how awful she could have been, because she got married. Though apparently the locals were shocked at their union and whispered that she bewitched him. Nevertheless, when somebody was robbed and mentioned it, without hesitation, Mother Shipton conned the neighbour and said, "I'll tell you exactly who's taken it and where it is." So the next day, this neighbour and Mother Shipton went to the Marquette Cross, and the woman who had stolen the item couldn't stop herself from putting the stolen clothing item, with an item of clothing, on over the top of her clothes and marching through town, and then dancing and dancing. And even though she tried to stop, she couldn't. And she danced right up to Mother Shipton, singing, "I stole my neighbour's smock and coat. I am a thief, and here I show it." And there it is. So they took back the item, and the frightened thief ran away. Now, of course, she gave her prophecies in all kinds of ways, and whether or not they are true, let's have a look. So the River Ouse is a river next to York, and the Ouse Bridge is a bridge over said river. And she said, "Before Ouse Bridge and Trinity Church meet, what is built in the day shall fall in the night, till the highest stone in the church be the lowest stone of the bridge." Now, it meant nothing to the people of York until the people of the town got a piped water system which brought the water over the bridge. So it came in pipes from a windmill that drew up the water and so on. The pipes they used were made from elm trees, and the pipes came to each place in the town delivering the water. After her uttering of a prophecy, there was a very large storm, and in the storm the steeple at the top of Trinity Church fell, and a portion of the Ouse Bridge was destroyed and swept away. Later, when making repairs to the bridge, pieces of the original steeple were used as the foundation of the new section of the bridge, effectively making Trinity Church and the Ouse Bridge that was built in the day and fell in the night, and the steeple the highest stone on the church, the lowest foundation on the bridge. So the prophecy came true. So now the next one, which didn't happen as far as we know, the world to an end shall come in 1881. Now, we know that in 1881 the world did not come to the end. So does that show it wasn't true? Well, that was actually an addition that somebody put in later, and it wasn't from her. And of course the world didn't come to an end, which goes to show but one which came out was, "Carriages without horses shall go, and accidents fill the world with woe. Iron in the water shall float, as easy as a wooden boat." And of course, at the time of her life, there were no such thing as trains or iron ships or cars So it did come true. So Mother shipped him? Maybe. I don't know. Now, ESP. Proponents of ESP says that what you do is tune into or receive information from a universal energy field or information stream that exists outside normal physical perception. And non-physical senses, subtle senses, can link into that, which might be linked to your chakras, your third eye, or the perception of the weird. So this leads you to know things that otherwise you couldn't. Clairvoyance, clear seeing; clairaudience, clear hearing; clairsentience, clear feeling; claircognizance, clear knowing; and telepathy. So the ability to get information as visions, or through hearing it, or just knowing it empathically, or downloads of information that suddenly you're aware of things, not through an emotional hunch or something like that, but just you suddenly know without rational explanation, or because a voice in your head spoke to you and told it, telepathy. Now, science says this is probably due to conscious or unconscious cold reading, the ability of astute observation to make high probability guesses, which is something that can be done. Psychological factors such as the desire to believe, which makes you modify the information to fit what you want it to. And they say that no, it's all rubbish and it doesn't exist. But that's how it's supposed to exist. Does it? Doesn't it? I don't know. I suppose it depends. Now, can you have abilities? Well, certain mediums will say yes. Anybody can grow psychically if you're willing to put in the time and effort, regardless of whether or not you are born with a psychic ability. Psychic abilities aren't a one-size-fits-all gift. There are different types, and some will be stronger in you than others, like any ability. Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Yes, ask.
No, I don't have a question. That'll be right back. But I do want to tell you that the world did come in 1881 for some people.
And why is that?
Well, there was the first Boer War happened in 1881.
That is true. That is true. Maybe then there was a certain amount of accuracy. And I mean, it's, as we've established, whose world? What is a world per se? This is a very interesting question and a very interesting point. So, yeah, that's a point.
Probably not the entire world for the majority of people, because nobody knew about it.
That is also true. If the world entirely ended, you wouldn't know about it. That is true. That is true. That is true.
But do you think it's capable of training yourself? It's maybe a learning ability?
Well, here is my theory. Let us assume that psychic abilities work like any ability. Now, you might be a natural runner, and so for you, learning to run well will be really easy, okay? However, you will still have to practice it to be any good. If you sit on the couch eating ice cream all day, you will be a bad runner, no matter your natural ability. But even if I have really bad natural ability to run, I might not be able to be as good as a real pro, but I can learn to run, can I not? So it would imply that if these abilities function the same way, some people are naturally good at certain ones, but anybody can learn to at least do the basics of any of them, if you're willing to put the time and effort in. If that makes sense. And assumedly, you might be able to facilitate your abilities. So as we know, a true medium will communicate directly with the spirits. But if you're not that good at it, you can go and get something like a Ouija board to facilitate your latent abilities and help you do so. Don't know, does that make sense? So if it works like an ordinary ability, then yes, anybody should be able to learn at least the basics. Whether or not you might be able to do like really potent stuff, well, I can't run like an Olympic sprinter. I'm really not the sort of person who will ever be a great runner, even if I put effort in, but I can learn to run. So maybe. Now, with that said, there should therefore be famous people who've got really cool, strong abilities. And there are. So, famous ones, as we've mentioned, you had Nostradamus. We also had people like Daniel Douglas Home. He was in the 1800s, between 1833 and 1886, a Scottish medium and spiritualist. Possibly one of the world's first professional psychics who could also levitate, apparently. We also had the famous Edgar Cayce, who you may have heard. He was a clairvoyant.
Telekinesis.
Sorry, he was what again?
Okay, because we were talking about psychic ability, but making yourself float, wouldn't that be telekinesis?
Yes, but it is a psychic ability.
Okay.
It's one of the many. So,
You can do it too with your mind, but the way you do it is you just understand that there is no food.
Well,
I'm not sure if you've ever seen The Matrix. The Matrix, there was this little boy that was bending a spoon with his mind. And then Neo tried to do it as well.
Well, the Matrix.
He failed, and the boy failed.
Yes, the Matrix used that exact thing, and of course we will see spoon bending did become a thing for a while, which is where the Matrix got the idea from. The ability to affect things. Now, how exactly it works does get very specific.
But that would also be psychic abilities because there's nothing actually real, and they're all just code.
Well, I don't know.
Unless living actually in the Matrix and nothing actually real.
I suppose it depends on how you look at things. I think the key point really for psychic abilities is that you haven't done it using your normal physical abilities. So you haven't reached over, picked up the spoon and bent it between your fingers, but it bent.
Do you think it's possible that we do not live in reality? That it's all just a simulation? It's fake. Everything is here.
The difficulty is I don't believe that the Matrix idea of the world is true. I do not think we live in a simulation in someone's mind. So no, from that side, no.
If somebody comes to you and you would then drink the blue pill, not the red pill.
I missed all of that. You moved away from your mic.
Well, I didn't know that. Maybe there's some interruption.
Could have been.
I asked you if somebody comes to you with a blue pill and a red pill, you would then take the blue pill.
Yes, it's your red and blue pill type thing to believe or disbelieve and break the mental connection that insists this world only works according to science, and accepting the reality that you can move beyond, and therefore by accepting it you therefore can.
So you would say the illusion.
Well, yes, but again, as I say, I don't believe that this world is an illusion. So the idea in the Matrix is that the world as we know it isn't real. It's like a game in which we are unknowingly engaged. Now, I believe that the world is real. I don't think we live in a matrix at all. But then again, maybe I'm wrong, and which is why I'm still stuck in it. You know, the only way to know otherwise would be if you were able to break out of it, isn't it?
Yeah, no, but I also think it would be a bit actually you have physical bodies, but they're in these little pods, and then you just simulate a different reality. I think that would be false. I mean, aliens or advanced robots.
Well,
I think they would also used to gain energy than the weaker human body. Oh, they actually want to protect human bodies because they were designed like that. I'm guessing.
see,
They were advanced robots.
the thing is that science kind of says that all things are actually just a form of energy. And if that is the case, theoretically, you can exist in different energy states, which means theoretically parallel universes are all here in the same place at the same time in the same way, but on a different wavelength, if you will. And you could move between such realities by changing your energetic state.
How about we remove the wavelength, or we keep it, but it's more like it's higher wave.
Yeah,
But
I don't
we are
know.
all interconnected, but from the outside it might seem like everything is running at the same time, but within our little view, we are only following one timer.
Well, of course, this is broadly the same kind of idea as the idea of the Akashic records, that somewhere out there is like this database of all reality that's going on all the time, and if you were properly spiritually advanced, you could connect to it and therefore know the past, the present, the future, other places, and all kinds of things, which fits into the whole matrix idea as well, in that regard. So yeah, people have come up with these theories in many ways throughout history, and it would imply that, as you say, there are realities out there that if you were properly aware, you could connect to them, which again is, I suppose, the whole idea of the red pill, blue pill thing. So yes, I don't know. How it would work is complicated.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll have to go back to how a universe probably generated.
I don't know.
Do you think, well, you don't think the Big Bang ever happened?
Do I think the Big Bang ever happened?
Well, you already told me previously that you don't think the Big Bang ever happened.
I think that, I didn't say that. I say that there's an issue with it. But then the other option, that God created the universe, also has issues with it.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm thinking about the end of the universe as well, and then the recreation of the universe, because it would be really sad if the universe just, in trillions of years from now, just ends because the last star has burned out. Everything has gone dark and cold, and it's just floating black holes that then slowly disappear through radiation.
well, remember, one of the things that people forget and is really, really difficult to understand, and I read an entire scientific explanation of it, and I can honestly tell you that I don't know if I've really got this right, but first of all, time as we know it is an illusion. It doesn't exist. It's just our way of marking rate of change. So it only exists in your head and between us by agreement. Okay, what we actually have isn't time at all, it's rate of change. So the universe is under constant change, which, you see, if you think of things in terms of time, there's a beginning and there's an end. But if you think of things in terms of rate of change, there's just metamorphosis. It might be into something wherein you can't exist because the metamorphosis is extreme, but from the point of view of reality, it's just changed. It hasn't stopped. So there isn't a beginning and there isn't an end. There's just continuous change. And we're a blip in the middle of that where it's convenient for us to exist.
Okay, so for trillions of years or trillions of not time, nothing will exist, or just radiation that floats around.
Who's to say? Maybe it cycles back and restarts. Nobody was there at the beginning. Nobody's been there at the end. The point
That's
is,
what I want to know.
but the point is that no, you can't. Remember, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Therefore, there is no beginning and end. There's merely a change. What it will change into, we have no way of knowing. But there isn't a beginning or end, because that's an illusion created by the concept of time, which is itself an illusion. The energy is the same from the beginning right the way through, and always will be in some form. There will be an end probably to you, because things will change sufficiently that humanity can no longer exist. Maybe the world will explode or whatever, I don't know. But the universe per se just keeps on going in different forms. So there is no end.
But you've got energy in the body. It is
Yes.
heat. And as soon as you die, that energy starts exiting your body. Or you stop regenerating.
I will end. I will end. But the
But that
energy that I have will simply metamorphose into something else.
Yeah. So that energy, that heat, will just become part of the atmosphere. And then
Who
move along.
knows? Who knows? It will go where energy goes.
Well, I just did some research and were absolutely correct. According to AI, it does say no, energy cannot be restored, but it can change phase.
Yes. Energy can change. I could be the next potato. Who knows? After I die. Yeah, sure. Or a wind, or the spark in a car. All of these things are possible. The energy is there. It is what it is. It will simply metamorphose. But now, according to these psychics, are able to tap into this greater energy and therefore know things. Edgar Cayce, 1877 to 1945, diagnosed illnesses and provided advice on sicknesses in a trance state, and of course he was one of the founders of the New Age movement. Jean Dixon, 1904 to 1997, an astrologer and psychic famous for predicting the assassination of JFK. Sylvia Brown, 1936 to 2013, known for her numerous books and work with police investigations. John Edward, still not dead, born in 1969, connecting grieving people with their deceased relatives on TV shows like Crossing Over. Teresa Caputo, born 1966, still alive, known as the Long Island Medium, who on a TV show would communicate with the dead for her clients. And Miss Cleo, who was born in 1952 and passed in 2016, was a flamboyant psychic who starred in a late-night TV infomercial, of all things. Other notable ones, Uri Geller, an Israeli, who, amongst other things, did do the bending of spoons. And then, of course, Tyler Henry, who gained his fame through his reality show Hollywood Medium. So we've got a few right through to the modern times that maybe, I don't know, we shall see. Let us consider. Now, being psychic is a modern thing because the word only really has come in modern times. But seers, divination, clairvoyance, and more, we've seen records of it 4000 BC in Mesopotamia, the Greek oracles, the Egyptian seers, and more. It only was introduced to English in the 1870s as a word, but it's been there right the way through. We had in the 18th century people like Franz Mesmer with his idea of mesmerism, animal magnetism, invisible energy and communication between people and spirits. And of course this had a major effect on 19th century spiritualists. The spiritualist movement, of course, in the 1840s, especially after the Civil War, a huge public demand for being able to communicate with the afterlife. The big scientific inquiry that went on between 1860s and 1880s, which made it a formal thing, I suppose. And then laboratory studies that have been done even in Stanford, Duke University, the idea of xenocards. You know what xenocards are? So xenocards are cards with specific basic shapes on in a deck, shuffled up, and without your seeing the card, you have to tell me what picture is on it in order to prove you have psychic ability. And of course this has come forward, believe it or not, into the modern age with modern ghost hunters. They are doing exactly the same thing. So yeah, there is a great deal of this throughout history. Now, as I say, the scientists say that there is a lack of replication. You can't keep doing the same thing and being right all the time. So they say that this isn't just real science at all, it's rubbish. There are just cognitive biases and wishful thinking and frauds and stuff like that. Nobody really has these powers. Even when there was the James Randi Educational Foundation's $1 million paranormal challenge, where you could win $1 million if you could prove and demonstrate you had psychic ability, it went unclaimed. So there was a lot of study, but no evidence has been satisfactorily produced for scientists. But that doesn't stop lots and lots of people believing in it. And ESP...
Do you believe in it?
Do I believe in it? Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. But not in everyone and not all the time. I believe that it does happen and it can happen. I do believe that to be successful, you do have to train in such things to focus your mind.
Have you ever experienced something similar?
Yes, I have. That's why I believe in it. Can I do it all the time? No. Can I prove it? No. But I can tell you that a very good friend that I was very close with, that I used to often want to talk to when I was not doing so great in the military, I couldn't call them because I never had any money to call, because they paid you into your bank account and there were no banks out on the border. But there was a payphone, and when I really wanted to talk to my buddy, I would sit by the phone and think about them really, really, really hard, and 9 times out of 10 they would phone the phone. They knew the number, of course, because I managed to get a message to them, but they would call it when I was sitting by it.
Yeah.
So
psychic abilities, I have them. I'm sure you have them.
I think yes.
Lots of people do have them because in the form of a feeling, we can feel things. Like last week, not last week, like beginning of the weekend, I felt like somebody was in my yard. I didn't hear anything. And yeah, my mom was here as well. She could also sense that there was someone in the yard.
Well,
but we didn't talk to each other about it. until we actually started hearing
Noises.
footsteps.
Yes.
Yeah. And then she shouted, and then he heard the guy running.
Which meant you were aware. Now, okay, let's break that down. On the negative side, the critical side, they would say that you heard it without realizing and attributed it to. Okay.
There was no sense in it.
Okay, but on the positive side, saying that no, that's evidence enough. Have you ever walked into the room and you were just like, shit, everyone's in a bad mood, and you've picked it up immediately? Not because anyone said or did anything, but there was just a vibe. So,
Yes.
yes, most of us have had that. So we are sensitive to at least the energy given off by other living things. You know,
Sometimes you can feel something's about to happen, and
yes,
then it actually.
you know for a fact that if you're in a really angry mood, your pet won't come and sit with you. They sense it, that, you know, without you shouting or doing anything, they know. They can pick up. And they won't come near you because you're angry. Now, taking it a step further, as you say, there have been many occasions where I thought this or that is going to happen. And then it did. You're aware.
As well. Like the other day, like my stepbrother, I never think of him. And then randomly I was just thinking of him, and 20 minutes later, he rocked up at my house.
There you go. When my mother died, I wasn't there. I knew it when she died. I knew the time she died. And I
could
was,
feel it.
yeah. And then I was like, I really don't feel good. Something's gone wrong, and it's, you know. And then 2 minutes later, I got a phone call from my dad saying, come over, she's just passed. I need your help. Now, critically, I knew she was sick. I knew it was something that was gonna happen within the next 3 months. Okay. But on the positive side, I knew when it did happen. I was right about the time. I just knew.
Yeah, and these are not types of patterns that you can calculate.
No. You know, I lived away from home at that moment, and you know, I was working down in Mhlanga, but home would have been in Waterfall, long drive, you know, so I was away. So I wasn't there to see, oh, she's not doing so good today. I had to leave home really early before everybody got up for the long drive to go to work, so I didn't see them that morning and wouldn't see them till late at night type thing. So I had no means of judging, and it was sudden and unexpected for everybody, including a doctor. We thought she would hang on for a few months more. So there was no like, yeah, it's going to happen. You know, and I'm not an expert on cancer. I don't know how it works or what the signs were. I found out afterwards, but too late by then. So yeah, you would, and I can tell you now, more than one occasion when I was in the military, I knew if I was out on duty and patrolling and stuff, I knew if there were other people around. How did I know? I don't know. I can't tell you. But I knew, and would take precautions to the degree that one or two of my buddies used to always say, no, we'd rather go on trips with Philip. And they're like, but why? Because I wasn't like the strongest, the fastest, the best shot or anything. And they're like, no, but he always seems to know when somebody else is out there and we can duck quicker. So it was noticed by somebody else. I don't know. True? False? Don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there absolutely are sensory. Now, are they as advanced as all that? Are there, can I say that I'm going to be able to whip out a psychic electrical charge and whip you with it like they do in comics? Well, no, I have never been able to do that. I have to be honest.
But do you think, like a gut feeling or a mother's intuition is like a
Absolutely.
psychic?
Absolutely, I do. I really do. Like I say, I've been able to communicate with a friend at least strongly enough to make him give me a phone call when I really needed to talk. We were very close.
Yeah.
Great.
Mother's intuition. The parent is capable of picking up that something has gone wrong with the child, or the child is being mischief
Yes.
or something.
Yes. Well, I can
No.
tell you, my mother never admitted to any such things, okay? Now, interestingly enough, in my family history, on her side especially, and it does pass down, they say, I have 2 witches and an Anglican saint. So apparently it's in the family blood. Now, I know for absolute fact that she knew things when I was growing up that there is no way she could have known, but was right. I remember the one night, I used to, often on Saturday night was like my night. I was allowed to, when I was growing up, I was allowed to go out with the buddies and be out, whatever, come back Sunday. Sunday night was home night, dinner with the parents and what have you. But Saturday was mine. And she never stopped me. If I wanted to go out, I went out. And I remember the one day she was like, I'd really like it if you stayed and watched a movie with me tonight. And I was like, okay, why? She said, no, I just would really like you to stay home tonight. Never done it before. If we ever did something, it would be on a Sunday. So I'm like, okay, why? She said, I don't want you to go out tonight. That's it. And she wouldn't explain anything else. That night, 3 of my buddies went out, were in a really bad car accident. One guy broke his back. The other 2 were seriously injured. And I was not with them. They were the ones I was going to go out with that night.
Yeah.
And I didn't, because she whined at me and moaned at me and said, I really want you to stay. Okay, I'll stay with you. She'd never done it before and never did it after, but that night was the night.
Feeling she couldn't explain it, so she didn't explain it.
Well, she never said anything, but we were together at the time, and all of a sudden, without any reason for it, she turned and looked at me and said, by the way, how is your friend? And named him. And I'm like, well, it was fine Friday afternoon when I saw him at school. I don't know. Why would you ask me suddenly?
She could sense it, but
She knew.
probably didn't visualize it. She didn't know about the accident, but she knew something was going to happen.
Well, given that she wouldn't talk about it, see it, but didn't want to admit it, I don't know. But all I know is
Okay.
she
Well,
kept me home. And at the time
here's an,
of the accident, she said, "How's your buddy?"
yeah.
Was she
And
sick?
you couldn't.
Now, I also was thinking about him at that time. I suddenly was
And
thinking,
so,
which again, because I was watching a movie, and why would I think about them? And then I thought, I wonder, and then I hadn't really formed the thought. And she says to me, "How's your buddy?" And I just looked at her and I thought, that is weird.
yeah.
And of course, I only found out Monday morning he's not at school. Why not? So I phoned up and, "Hey, where does everyone know? They've taken off a few days and he's in hospital. Big car accident." Oh, shit.
So you say your mom had some psychic abilities.
Oh, I think she had quite a lot. She knew shit all the time. I could never get away with anything growing up. She knew.
Yeah.
I remember I went to a study group at somebody else's house entirely. But really, of course, I was going to someone else's place for a party. And as I was leaving with my bag full of books, she just turned to me and said, "Just don't get too drunk." Sorry, what? And she says, "At that one's house," naming where we were really going, not where we said we were going. And we're like, "Okay, how did you know?" And then she carried on and said nothing else.
Okay.
And we're like, "Hang on, what? What?"
So do you think a gut feeling is like a psychic ability?
I think to a certain degree, on a certain level, yes. I think absolutely. It has to be.
And some gut feelings can be strange. Like you've got a feeling that somebody's going to come and visit you and they're going to bring you a gift.
Yes. And of course, it always seems stronger with it if it's somebody that's either important to you or related to you.
Yeah.
So,
What about having the feeling that somebody is staring at you?
yes, you can feel it, can't you? Absolutely.
Yeah. But is that also maybe a psychic ability?
Well, it's like on the edge of, you're picking up the energy somehow, even if you don't realize why or do it deliberately. There must be some level of energy.
Yeah. And it can probably some people might be capable of picking up more energy than others.
I think that some people are naturally good at it. And I think that some people train themselves up at it. But I think on a level, we all have the most basic bit of it. Some people are better at some things than other things. So, for example, I told you before in previous lives, I can see ghosts. I just do. So clearly it's a thing that's part of what I'm good at.
Well, do you think is energy?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So clearly I am sensitive in certain ways to certain things. Is it
Do you
the
think
same?
ghosts is detectable with equipment?
I don't know. I suppose it would depend what kind of energy it was and if you could figure out a way to measure it.
Today I learned that people can see you moving around in your house using your Wi-Fi.
Sorry, they can. You can see people moving around in their house by.
using your Wi-Fi. So using a Wi-Fi signal, you can detect movement
Okay,
through
that's what I thought you said, and I was like, hold on. But now that you say it, it actually makes a hell of a lot of sense. Because, yeah, your Wi Fi will spike to. Because, okay, hold on. You probably have your phone in your pocket most of the time, right?
yes.
So it's giving a
Yeah.
signal. So I can detect your location pretty much
Well,
anywhere.
the device is moving, so that location. But I'm talking about like my Wi-Fi router sitting next to me. If I stand and swim still, it won't see the disruption because how Wi-Fi works, it gives off like a radio signal. When it bounces around, it can start picking up data,
Well,
and
not
then it
just
can
change your wording,
feel the
change your wording and it will make more sense. Because what you're using is a energetic wave. And if you've
yeah.
ever
So it's,
watched waves going through water, when it hits something else in the water, it changes shape.
yes.
So same
So the
thing.
wave hits you, and it receives, it bounces off the walls and hits you, and goes back into it, and it picks up all those data and disruption. So it picks up a disruption.
Yes.
When you move around, it can actually see you move around.
Yes, that makes total sense. So there are absolutely energies that exist in the world, I suppose we can say, that we can measure, absolutely. And by measuring them, we could thereafter, assumedly, get data out of them as to there,
Yes.
which implies that if you are in some way sensitive to energy, and assumedly we all are to a certain degree, you could then pick up on these energies in the environment around you and sense those ripples, sensing what is there or what has been there, or maybe even what is about to be there. Because if you walk through water, the ripples go ahead of you, don't they? As well as,
Yeah.
but so yeah, maybe I can sense your coming by the ripples in whatever.
Time. It hasn't happened yet, but the time is moving towards it.
Yeah, in the change of energy, the rate of change in the metamorphosis of the energy of the world. That's logical. And then, like anything, I mean, if you think about it logically, you don't see. Okay? Not really. Your eyes pick up light and reinterpret it in a
Well,
way that we call seeing.
your what you see.
Yes. So what we call seeing is your brain interpreting the reflected light of what's out there. So why shouldn't you have other excuse me, other senses picking up and interpreting the reflected energies of time and space?
Mm.
You know, there's a lot more science to it than you might think, but the science isn't entirely illogical. Not really.
I mean, people also give out some energy without even talking to you or communicating with you, but you can feel that somebody is like has
Well,
a happy energy and someone has like a sad depression energy, and it also
yes.
like affects your mood.
Absolutely. And I mean, we know that the human body, even on a physical level, gives off energy all the time because if I look at you with a night vision scope, I can see you. That's the point of a night vision scope. You give off energy all the
Yeah,
time
but
in
your
different
vibe is
ways.
kind of like energy that you give off.
Yeah. But emotions are a form of energy and
Yeah.
you give them off. So when you're very angry, you radiate your anger. If you're very sad, you radiate your sorrow. I mean, if you've ever been with somebody who's in like a massively bubbly good mood, doesn't it make you feel happier automatically?
It does.
Yeah, why?
You're depressed, then you feel depressed with them.
Yeah. I mean, we even have phrases in our language about it where I say things like, dude, you're killing the vibe.
Yeah.
Why would we have a phrase if it wasn't something we experienced?
So I was gonna say like humans are strange, but then yeah, earlier you mentioned about an animal can pick up a vibe.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if in different animals they've got different strength of picking up different energies.
I do believe so. Now, I know that the dogs are better at emotional energy, or maybe cats just don't give a shit. But cats certainly know quicker when something weird is around.
Yeah.
They respond fast to that. Whereas dogs seem to respond far more to emotion energy,
Yeah.
which seems logical because they respond in terms to possible dangers. So if you suddenly stomp into the room all angry, the dog knows immediately and may move to protect me because they sense the purpose of your emotion is negative.
What something maybe like a deer. You're hiding away. You're being very quiet. You stare at the deer.
And they look
Suddenly,
up. There is that,
do you
there
think
is that.
it's picking up that it could feel that somebody is looking at it?
Well, I will tell
Maybe it
you.
could
Okay,
be the
now,
dream
one thing I've
inside.
noticed in many deer is when there's a possible danger, they turn sideways on to the danger, which I suspect is probably, look, I'm no expert on deer, but it seems to be that it's a position in which they can look back into the direction of the possible danger and still be in a position to run like hell if they need to. Okay, so in my experience, when a deer picks up on a threat, it will turn sideways to the threat. Now, I can think of times where I've been on the top of a koppie, a hill, looking down and seen the deer and thought, man, I bet you I could hit that. It would make a great meal. And when I thought it, even though I'm above the scent lane, there's no way it could have seen me, it's flanked and looked up, as if it sensed the fact that I thought, I bet I could eat that. And suddenly I
Yeah.
became a threat. And then it moved off. So, yeah, I think we use far more senses than the basic 5 people talk about all the time. And it doesn't always work well. I remember there was a guy, and I often think about him actually, because he was a very nice guy. He was utterly inoffensive. There was nothing wrong with him. And worse, he was very much interested in many of the same things that I was. He was a sort of guy that should have been the perfect friend, you know, and there was no reason why he wouldn't be. But there was something about his energy that scraped against mine. That's the only explanation I can give. I couldn't stand him. He had never done anything to me. There was absolutely nothing wrong with him. He was a perfectly nice guy. I could not stand being near him. And it made me...
You just couldn't go.
I just could not. If I was near him, it felt like somebody was scraping their nails down my back. For no reason, from the first day I met him. And a couple of my friends actually said to me, but like, we should get him to join our group, because like, he's interested in what we're interested in. He's a nice guy. And I just couldn't stand him. I just could not do it. I don't know why, to this day. But clearly there was something about his energy that clashed mine.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine things like that happens. And sometimes you get annoyed with people that they've done nothing wrong.
Yeah, and I mean,
I don't know.
I've thought about him many, many times through my life, because I can honestly say that there is no logical reason for me not liking him. None. I've gone through it in my head a million times. And there's none. Just that energy did not work with mine. I just, yeah. It made me angry and aggressive. Don't know.
Okay. So animals also have a sixth sense, and they might even be stronger than ours.
Possibly. Mainly because I think, unlike animals who just go, it is what it is, we try and rationalize and deny. If it doesn't fit my ability, my view of the world, then I won't believe in it.
We make things overcomplicated where they just
live.
go with energy.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, that's our biggest problem. We overthink.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's all I can tell you for now. But I can tell you that there is enough info that I've researched for carrying this discussion on in the next live with a number of people that were said to be psychic, that we can look at, and maybe they were, maybe we are. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think we just come to a conclusion that we are all
I think so.
some psychic up to certain levels.
I would say that, but can I prove it?
Well, I think you gave enough examples of people that or
I mean, I can tell you the story in hindsight of my mother. Can I prove it? No, because it's in hindsight.
Well, if not like a psychic ability, then try and explain it in a different way.
I suppose. Some would say it's the voices in my head. Some would call it magic.
How does a sixth sense work, or a gut feeling, or a mother's intuition.
Yeah.
How does it work? How can you explain it if not a psychic ability?
That would be my only explanation, but not everybody agrees, of course. But I think it's fair to say, at least on some level, it's real and does exist. Whether we can go as far as to say you can move things with your mind and all that, well, I suppose that's a point of argument and a point that you would have to decide one way or another whether or not you believe in that. But at least at the basic level, there is something.
I think, a big issue with it is that people would not see it as a fact. I think it's some sort of supernatural sense and not an actual thing.
And you can understand why, even
Because
if you don't agree with them.
You can't control it.
Well, maybe you can. And we will get into that as well in the next live. So, yes, we will discuss it more. We will discuss the other things surrounding it. So, do come back, guys. I hope you have enjoyed it. We will do it again tomorrow. Spooky, thank you so much. And we will go further because maybe you can learn to control it. But we will have to see what is out there. And maybe I can give you a certain perspective on this matter because of certain training which I have had. And I will explain next time. But until then, thank you so much for being with us. We have hit our 2-hour mark and we've got to save something for the next one. So think of your questions and ask them in tomorrow and we will take this further.
No, that's why I'm not continuing answering questions. I'll ask them tomorrow. Cool. Cheers. Enjoy.
Have a good one. I will look forward to them all.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.